Hi! So today I wanted to do a video, which is not really like the videos I've done in the past, but it's something that I've thought about for years. I just never thought doing. I've always been like very curious about just like the most random things that sometimes I feel like people don't even think about. But there has to be someone that has the same mindset as me. But I wanted to do a video, and it's pretty much just these little videos are going to be over like things that I find really interesting and that I just dug into. So for instance, today's video is going to be on police and K-9 history, okay? And with these videos, I want to try to do both sides. I don't want to ever just make a video just about one side and one side only. I want to weigh in on both of the sides. Got this idea when I was watching me and Devin. If you don't know, Devin is my boyfriend. Me and Devin watch a lot of like cop shows, and I don't know, just something we really like to do. And so we started watching On Patrol Live, and I've noticed that like, you know, they have canines. And one night we were just watching On Patrol Live, and I was like, you know, have you ever thought about like, where did this even start? How did they get this idea to bring, you know, dogs as like police officers? You know, I started Googling and researching and looking through articles, and this is what I found. How did it start? So apparently it had started as early as 1888. Its first uses of police dogs were bloodhounds, and they were actually used to search for Jack the Ripper, which, if you don't know who Jack the Ripper is, he was like a prominent, like the first serial killer. That's pretty much when the first uses of them were. European colonists brought dogs to America, and they used them as tools for like violence in Cuba. They were to make slaves stay at plantations. British people used them against the Jamaican Maroons in the 18th century. The way that they were trained them during the Haitian Revolution is they would literally use like wicker toys, and wicker toys were pretty much, it kind of reminds me of like those like rope toys you give to dogs, right? And they would use these toys, and they would confine the dogs into like pretty much makeshift kennels. Like, I mean, obviously back then they didn't have what they have now, so I have to believe that they're literally like really cooped up in these really small like cages and treated like animals, you know? They make these toys, like these rope toys, and they would make them in like shapes of pretty much like the slaves, who were black people, Haitians, and they would literally put it in the blood of like whatever animals that the dogs would go after to pretty much eat, right? They would put these toys in the blood of those. So and then to top it all off, like, let me dangle it above you but not give it to you. So what does it do? It makes that dog eventually become very aggressive, because they're like, okay, I really want to get to that treat, like I really want it, right? Makes them kind of go out of their minds insane. And so they would like build this up. They would keep this little wicker toy above the dogs. This was repeated so often that the animals got so ferocious and struggled against their confinement that they would let them out once they would pretty much go to these villages. Then they would let the dogs out, and they would know exactly like who they're going to be going after, aka the Haitians. And then they would pretty much attack these individuals, these defenseless Haitian individuals that literally did nothing to them. And, you know, they're so confined into these spaces, probably have been starved, and they eventually will eat them. It's just really messed up to think about that that's how they were used, especially like dogs. Then in 1899, there was a K-9 training facility, and this is like, when I was doing my research, this is like the only one that I've seen that like started. And it started in Ghent, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Belgium, and they used Belgian sheepdogs and wolfhounds. And during slavery, bloodhounds were again used to capture like runaway slaves. And then when slavery ended, use of dogs didn't. So in like these predominantly southern towns, a lot of Southerners openly like talked about using these dogs to further like their racism. And the sheriffs would literally hold public demonstrations, okay, showing how effective these dogs can be used. And I'm gonna let you just think about that, because there's only so much details I'm gonna give, because it just makes me so nauseated and nauseous for a population that were treated like this, even to this day. So in 1907 was when there was the first training program in the US, and this from New York. This was like the first US state that started using canines, and it was from General Theodore A. Bingham, the New York Police Commissioner at the time, sent an Inspector George R. Wakefield, to study the Ghent program in Belgium. And Wakefield ended up returning to the States with literally 5 Belgian sheepdogs. And instead of like coming up with their own program, they saw that, oh, well, you know, this program's doing really well and it's being used, and, you know, why change it? So they pretty much just used their program instead of coming up with their own. And in 1911, 16 dogs were trained with their handlers, and they were sent out. So the way that they tested this is they literally were put in residential areas in Long Island between the hours of 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. every day. And they were trained to chase and tackle anyone between these times, stand on their chests, and bark until their handlers arrive. Like, can you just imagine? You're just like taking a little stroll, you and your freaking significant other down the street. It's like 11 p.m. because maybe you guys got off work late and this is the only time you guys can go take a stroll. Or you're just going outside and you're throwing away some garbage and you just get trampled, right? That's crazy. I would be so scared. So how were they trained? They were literally trained from when they were puppies. The NYPD would raise them in closed off areas away from public, and they only, like, these little puppies would only have a certain amount of time with like civilians, with their owners or their handler or whatever. And they would trained to see anyone that wasn't in a police uniform as like being bad, pretty much. And so they were put in kennels, right? And the police officers would go in, but they would be going in with normal clothes, right? And they would tease dogs. They would like bully dogs, berate dogs, yell at them, make them afraid, pretty much, for several days to even weeks, until the dogs, puppies, would show extreme aggression towards them when they were not being uniform, right? And dogs were trained also to wrap their front paws around the lower legs and drag the person down, like whoever they were attacking. They were also trained to search houses, track, and chase suspects. In 1910, in Glenridge, New Jersey, they decided, okay, well, hey, like, doing this, NYPD's doing this, why can't we do this? They also purchased 2 Belgian sheepdogs from the NYPD to patrol vacant homes in the streets. And in 1918, they disbanded the K-9 unit due to patrol cars made them nearly obsolete, and complaints of civilians who took late night strolls, like what I said, you know? I mean, which makes sense. Like, why would you, just taking a late night stroll, like during that time, it's probably very normal to take late night strolls and no one thinking you're doing anything bad. Whereas today, it's like, why are you taking a stroll at like 11 o'clock p.m., sir? But there would be a lot of complaints. So they decided to like, okay, well, clearly this is making more people hate us than anything. So they disbanded it. And during the 1920s and 40s is when they were mostly used by military and occasional private agencies. And then in the mid-1950s, canine training programs rose. So this is when they became like really popular again. Most for private companies for security purposes, such as like department stores, probably when they had like the security guards just going around making sure there's no like badass kids just chilling there. And then in 1954 is when in Dearborn, Michigan, hired an ex-Marine dog trainer to train 4 German Shepherds. So this is when German Shepherds were introduced to perform patrol duties. 4 patrolmen volunteered as handlers, and they got 6 months of training. And the training consisted of the dogs were trained to scale walls. They were trained to enter a vehicle and hold its occupants, disarm a man, search buildings, and be vicious/gentle on command. So after the 6 months of training, and then once they were finally put out into the force, after 6 months on patrol, not a single police dog related incident was reported. so it was disbanded. In 1955, so this was a year after, these same dogs were sold to Portland, Oregon, to another police bureau to begin their own canine corps, right? And they had purchased, the Oregon PD had purchased 5 more German Shepherds, and they also purchased 6 Doberman Pinschers. Their corps was not successful and they disbanded as well. So I'm seeing like an ongoing, like, okay, let's get together. Okay, let's disband. Like, it's not working. Partially due to the change of handlers. Think that this didn't work because, so these dogs were trained with 4 people, right? For dogs, when they get owners, like, it makes me think of dogs that get rescued and say they've had owners before. They've been with these owners for so long, you know, they're probably the only person they knew, and then they get sent away pretty much, and then they get new owners. So then they're like, okay, wait, my person was this person, and now my person's supposed to be this person, you know, so it probably didn't work out. Because the way that they're trained, they're supposed to be trained by that one person only. So when they get someone else, they're like, you're not the person that trained me. Why am I going to listen to you, pretty much? So it just didn't work out. It says that the key component of K-9 unit is the bond. During this time, when they were with the Portland police, one dog actually attacked a detective, pulling a suspect out from underneath a car. And other incidents showed up where dogs couldn't locate suspects in an open field or warehouse because they were not trained in tracking. They were more so trained in like houses, you know. They were trained to go in to houses and find the bad person. They weren't trained in like an open field where they have more sense. Their sense of smell is getting overwhelmed. So then in 1956, the Baltimore City PD instituted the first modern canine corps in the US. At the same time, the LAPD attempted to do the same but could not afford it, which is so interesting because like you would think Los Angeles would have a lot of money, but I also guess like during this time it wasn't how it is now. But I mean, even now they don't have the money. By this time, the German Shepherd was the most popular kind of police dog, and as you know, they're commonly used today. Like, I feel like you see more German Shepherds being used than anything. Kind of interesting fact, because I was like, why German Shepherds? You know, like, why were German Shepherds even used? Like, it makes me think of like, why did they choose some of these dogs? I don't know, dogs, breeds like that. If you're in a unit like this, if you're in like the police force, you obviously want to pick dogs that are known to be either like the type of hunting dogs, the type of like I guess aggressive dogs. Like, you want to really go more for those type of breeds, or just the type of dogs that have that instinct to be protective and are just known to be loyal. The reason that they used German Shepherds was because, the breed was used against Jews in concentration camps. During World War II, Hitler referred to the German Shepherd as a canine equivalent to an Aryan race, which, if you don't know much about Hitler, the Aryan race was considered like the superior race, like the blonde hair, blue-eyed, white person race. That was like considered the Aryan race. Hitler, okay, referred to. And I had actually found online, one of the sources said that they also thought it was really cool, like why they used German Shepherds, which was because they looked like a police officer, like they gave off that type of confidence and aggressiveness. So in 1960 was when the canine violence was used to dismantle like protests, like especially peaceful protests in the 1960s during the civil rights movement. And I had seen they were used in like the LA race riots in LA. The LAPD used dogs with excessive force. So I actually saw that 900 LA natives were bit by dogs between 1990 and 1993. 900 in those 3 years. Like, just think about that. That's pretty much like 300 people that were attacked every year in those 3 years. So that's, if you think about it, in a span of a year, if we were to do like the smallest amount, that would be pretty almost equivalent to someone getting attacked by a dog every day. Because what, there's 365 days in a year, right? 300 dogs maybe each year. Like, that's just 90% were Black and Hispanic that got attacked. And I mean, also just think about like where you are in LA. LA was predominantly back then, had a lot of, I mean, even today, they have a lot of races. 5 years later, 1995, the LAPD changed policy of canines to a find and bark model over the aggressive policy they had before. So instead of literally going and attacking someone when they find a bad suspect, they instead will find the person and they'll just bark. You know, and like, that's a good and a bad thing because yes, of course, no one wants to be attacked by a dog. Like, let's be real, right? And I guess in some cases it makes sense. Like, obviously, if you're a wanted criminal, you've killed people, like, that makes sense why you would want that person to be, who cares, you know? But it's also like, well, what about a 16-year-old kid that is just running from the police because maybe he drank and he doesn't want to get in trouble by his parents? Or what about like someone that's innocent per se, you know, and you get attacked aggressively by a dog? But this was back in 2020. Suspect had been like fleeing from the law. He had committed a crime. I can't remember what it was, but he was running and they found him. Like they were like, okay, like, give up, you are surrounded, you pretty much better come out or the dogs are coming out. He's literally surrendering. I'm not sure if he had a weapon on him or what, but I mean, I can understand how the cops are probably afraid because they're like, oh God, like this person might have a weapon, might not, who knows, they already have a record. I can understand that they're afraid, but when it's like one person versus like a whole group of people, it's like, I don't know. And so this man comes out, but they literally can see him, like he's surrendering himself. The cop still let the dog off just to go attack him. I don't know, it might have been miscommunication, who knows, I wasn't there, we weren't there, but it's the fact of the matter that the cops still let the canine off. The canine attacked the perpetrator and he was attacked so badly that he is permanently blind in one of his eyes for the rest of his life. And he late 20s, early 30s, but like for the rest of his life. In 2019, a study found that almost 33,000 people were taken to the ER for a canine dog bite between 2005 and 2013. That's crazy to me. I don't know if that's counting like people that have been running from the law. Like, I just don't know. I don't know the circumstances, but that's the facts. Also, like a lot of police force have kind of decided to get rid of K-9 units. Some of them, like I said, they've just been very, and I mean, it can do a lot with like your handler. Like maybe it's the handler and it's not necessarily the police force's fault, but it's more so like that handler that has that canine that's training them to be, you know, go after these certain types of people. Some people have decided to like do away with the canines. I know here where I'm at in North Carolina, they have canine units. I like to see the pros and the cons. So those are kind of the cons. The pros are, I mean, just think about like all the good that they've done. They found people, they found criminals that have killed like families. Like think about the dogs that are trained at like borders or just like in other countries and they find like drugs. Like that is so cool to me. Like to train a dog to be able to know and sniff and just find everything. That's crazy to me. Like that is where I'm like, that is doing a lot of good stuff. Rather than, it's like you have to weigh it out because you have to look at both sides. You have to see, okay, what all is our canines bringing versus what they're not bringing. Or they even find missing people. Like there's been countless missing children, just missing persons that have been found, or their bodies, like their cadavers have been found by these dogs. Pretty much all I have and all the research that I've done. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that the canine units are helpful? Do you think that they're more harmful? I want to know what you guys think and your thoughts below. Below if there's anything that fascinates you that you want me to do research on. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I want to do more videos like this in the near future. I want my channel to be like lifestyle, everything. Everything I like. Makeup, crime, stuff like this. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!